everyone, and welcome to another E38 video. Today we're going to answer a question that many E38 enthusiasts wonder, and that is, will the E38 BMW 7 Series ever rise in value? Now, the BMW 7 Series in general isn't a car that holds its value very well. You can easily find examples on your local Craigslist for around $5,000 or in that range, especially the E65. And that's because these cars come with tons of features that break down and need fixing. And enthusiasts are the ones that like to pay a premium, and they like to keep things simple, which is why they'll pay more for less. So to answer the question of whether or not the E38 will ever rise in value, let's take a look at some auction results on Bring a Trailer. Alright, so here we are on bringatrailer.com, and we're going to look at some previous BMW 7 Series auction data. And as you can see, they have a nice little 2001 740 IL Sport long wheelbase currently for auction. But what we're going to take a look at is the previous data. So to answer the question of whether or not the value is going up, the simple answer is yes, actually. If you take a look at recent auction data, you're going to see that there's a little bit of a trend. It's, not huge by any means, but if you look at the data, you can see that about 3 years ago in this time frame here, you had E38s that were basically falling around the price range of $5,000, and then as Bring a Trailer got more popular and time went on, you can see that this data kind of clumps around here between the $8,000 to $15,000 mark, and you even have some outliers going as far as $60,000. Those are really interesting. I'll talk about those later, but for now, let's take a look at some examples of the 740i with the V8 and the 750i with the V12. Alright, so first up is this black 2001 BMW 740i M Sport that looks exactly like mine, and it was sold for $600 to $800 about a year ago. So just at first glance, it looks like it's in pretty good condition, nothing too severe for the miles. And then as you read on, you can see it's got a little bit of history. It actually has its engine swapped over from another BMW 7 Series donor car, and it also has a bit of body damage. As you can see, there's some scuffing and scratches, and the paint's not really in the best condition, but it's not that bad either. And unfortunately, there also appears to be a bit of rust on the car. You can see right here on the valve body there's a bit of rust, and on the differential as well. But I think when you look at the service records, it does look to be mechanically well taken care of. If the paint was in better condition and the body was taken care of and the rust wasn't there, I'd say this car could easily fetch $10,000 considering its mileage, and that it's also an M Sport, and that it's also in black, which is, in my opinion, the best color for these. But overall, this is a very honest and well documented car, and definitely great value considering it went for $6,800. Now let's move on to a few more. So up now is a 2001 BMW 740i M Sport in titanium silver, and what you're going to notice with this car is that it has 100, or at least almost 138,000 miles at the time that it was sold. And that's almost twice as much more miles as the previous black one we just saw. And it went to sell for $10,000 just over a year ago. And at first glance, considering the mileage, this car looks really good. Maybe this photo here might be a little bit indicative of the mileage. Just a little bit of scuffing on the driver's side bolster. But overall, as you continue to read on and look at the photos, this car looks really good for 138,000 miles, which is roughly 220,000 kilometers. In fact, if we take a look at some of the photos of the interior alone, we're going to see that, everything looks really tidy. The leather looks in really great condition, and it looks like very few people have sat in the back here. And when you continue to read on about the car, you're going to see that it has a really well documented service history, and the previous owner obviously, judging by how well documented the car is, looks like they didn't skip any service intervals. And it also really goes to show that if these E38s are well taken care of, they can really last for a long time. what probably determined this price was the higher mileage. At $10,000, I think it could have gone for a little bit more, and the seller did also mention that there were some oil leaks. In fact, I think there's a few photos of them. So right here, and also if you have an E38, make sure to ignore this sticker and obviously change your transmission fluid. And yeah, a little bit of sweating and leaking right here. But overall, you know, if this car had, you know, 80,000 miles or, you know, maybe 130,000 kilometers, I think it could have easily fetched $13,000 to $14,000. So now that we've looked at a higher mileage but well cared for car, let's see what a low mileage example goes for. Alright, so here we have a very low mileage 2001 BMW 740i M Sport in steel blue metallic at only 25,000 miles, and as you can see, it sold for a whopping $27,250 just over a year and a half ago. And you know, just by taking a look at this specific example, it is pretty much a time capsule. It is absolutely mint, especially the interior. As you can see, the leather seats and the wood trim just look amazing. In fact, if we take a look at some of the photos here, it looks like it just came off of the showroom. And like this navigation screen right here, it looks like no one's even ever pressed the buttons. Now, as good as a condition it is, it's not entirely perfect. You know, the owner pointed out that it does have a bit of light rash here, and I think somewhere else was mentioned there was some, you know, minor body damage and, you know, an oil leak. But overall, I mean, as you can see, people really do pay big money for low mileage examples on Bring a Trailer. Now, for me personally, I wouldn't you know, pay this big of a figure for this car. I'd much rather pay $10,000 for the well-used example we just saw. I feel like you can enjoy that one much more, and you know, most things that go wrong have definitely been replaced in that car at that mileage, which is, you know, evident of those records. However, you know, people seem to pay big dollars for low mileage examples. This is most likely seen as an investment. The person who bought this example, at least my guess would be that, you know, they're gonna preserve it some more, drive a little bit here and there, and then, you know, hopefully sell it through Bring a Trailer for maybe more than they bought it for. Buying a low mileage example like this for almost $30,000, in my opinion, isn't worth it, because you're just gonna end up having to replace everything unless it already has been. But like I said, you know, at this condition and mileage, people are willing to spend almost $30,000 for, you know, most likely it's seen as a second or third car, and probably like a fun investment. So now we've got a decent overview of 740i M Sports, and as you can see, they can really vary anywhere from price from $7,000 to $30,000 depending on condition, mileage, and history. Seeing current data, prices haven't really risen that much for normally used ones, but what's really going to fetch big figures for in the future is these low mileage, well preserved cars that have basically spent most of their time in garages. I wouldn't be surprised if the one that we just saw, this one right here, could fetch $35,000 to $40,000 in the next 5 years. Now, what about other models of the E38? Well, in my opinion, the one that will definitely continue to rise in the future and could possibly reach as far as $50,000 for well-sorted examples is the V12 750i long wheelbase. There is a few examples here on Bring a Trailer, not too many. This one right here and this one right here as well. And let's take a look at a few examples. So here we have this facelifted 2001 BMW 750i with the sport package. It only had 16,000 miles at the time of sale, and it sold for a whopping $30,500 USD. So it really goes to show that people will pay more for these V12 E38s. Now, if you take a look at the car, you can see that it is in really top shape, and the interior especially, it is really indicative of 16,000 miles. And yeah, as you can see, there's the mighty 5.4 liter V12. Anyways, let's take a glance at some of the photos of the interior. So one feature that I love about the V12 E38s is that you can get this leather wrap dash, and also in this lower area right here, it really looks nice. Scrolling forward, you can see 16,000 miles. It does have the common faded pixel issue with BMWs from this era, and as you can see, the old school navigation system with this fun but redundant feature for the tape cassette. And it does feature the phone, which is a must needed feature when you get an E38. One thing that I wish this car might have got is the chrome line package, but overall, it looks like it's very well spec'd. The best part about these E38 V12s is definitely the rear seat area. As you can see, you got adjustable rear seats, and you also got the footrest, which is super cool and comfortable. Now personally, many people say that there isn't a huge difference from the pleasure you're gonna get from, let's say a 740 IL versus the 750 IL compared to the price difference, but people definitely value these V12s more because of their prestige, and also because all the celebrities drove these back in the day. Alright, let's move on to the best part, which is the outliers. Now these are expensive because, well, long story short, they're BMW M7s, if you want to call them that. Enthusiasts essentially got the S62 V8 from the E39 M5 and its 6-speed manual transmission, along with other special bits, and then swapped them into an E38. So let's take a look at this one right here that sold for almost $41,000. So here we have this 2001 740i M Sport, and as you can see, S62 4.9 liter V8 6-speed manual transmission, and rear differential from an E39 M5, and the car looks to be in anthracite. And as you can see, this is a really good looking E38, especially with this color and the short wheelbase and the M parallel rims. As you get a closer look into the car, you can see that the owner added an iDrive unit from a later model BMW, and I personally would have just kept the older navigation screen from the E39s and E38s of this era. I think it adds to the genuineness of it, but nonetheless, it's a nice modern touch if if you like technology. And as you can see, the S62 in all of its glory inside the E38. Now the car looks in pretty decent shape from the outside. If you take a closer look at the interior, you're gonna see it's well used, but it's not bad by any means. For instance, the driver's seat right here, the leather is in okay condition. It's not perfect, like there's a few cracks here and there, but no tears. And as you can see, the rear seats as well. So it goes to show, the car, it was well used, but it was overall taken good care of. And when enthusiasts do these type of swaps, when they get like an E38 and then put the the E39 driveline into one of these, I think it's better to get like a well used E38 rather than having to sacrifice a super clean one. But nonetheless, it's really evident that people want to pay good money for these cars, because the E38 is a fantastic looking car, and then the drivetrain of the E39 M5 is regarded as one of the best setups that BMW has ever made. So when you really put those two together, it's really evident that people will pay big dollars for something that everyone wishes that BMW had created back in the day. Alright, now let's take a look at the most expensive BMW that was sold on Bring a Trailer, and that's this supercharged S62 powered 2001 BMW 740i 6-speed. So, as the title suggests right there, this car was sold for $58,000 earlier this year. And upon first glance, this car is an absolute work of art. It's offered in Alpine white, and it looks fantastic in the short wheelbase with the Style 37 wheels. And the interior is also really unique as well. It's got this interesting caramel color to it. I really like it. I think it looks fantastic. Personally, I think it also looks better than most new interiors that are offered in today's market. I know some of you may disagree, but you know, like I said, it's definitely really unique and interesting. And the previous owner also did incorporate a newer iDrive unit here into the dashboard. So this car was sold for $60,000, and the previous example we just saw was sold for, you know, $41,000. So why is this one substantially more expensive? Well, one of the reasons is because this car is actually pretty famous. As you can see down below, it was featured in a magazine right here, and another reason why it's really famous is because there's a YouTube video that documents the whole entire build process of this car. And this car was really built from the ground up. You know, they mentioned that the S62 V8 was rebuilt, and as you can see through the photos, they've really done a thorough job of it. And also, you know, interior bits here and there. And they also did upgrade the suspension, the fuel system, also the exhaust, and they added some Brembo brakes, as you can see right here in the front. And also, you know, the best part in my opinion is they added an ESS supercharger to this S62 V8, and that's why, you know, it makes substantially more power than its stock figure. Also, and that also has to do with the exhaust and the fuel system. So, like I said before, this really is the perfect car that BMW never made, and I'm really glad to see that enthusiasts are doing so and creating their own examples. And honestly, it really motivates me to do this to my own car. So there you have it. I hope that gives you an idea of where prices for these E38s stand. If I were to give a general summary, I would say that cars that went through the facelift from '99 onwards are more valuable than the earlier ones. For instance, this 16-mile 750IL sold for $30,000, and this 750IL from '97 only sold for $18,000. So similar mileage, but because this one's facelifted, this one sold for, you know, almost just over $12,000 more. And while the short wheelbase M Sport that I mentioned is an amiable choice, buyers also seem to be willing to pay for the long wheelbase version, especially if it has the Sport package. The V12 750 Li seems like the way to go in terms of what's rising in value, and just in general, low mileage, super clean facelifted E38s with some Sport package. But in the end, the cars that truly bring the big bucks are these S62 swapped E38s. Anyways, guys, thank you so much for watching. Be sure to like, comment, subscribe, and share. And if you made it this far, there's a big update for the channel, so be sure to stay tuned, because we've got a lot planned involving a very special used German performance sedan. Anyways, like always, thanks for watching. We'll see you in the next video, where you're going to get to see the new addition to the channel. Thanks again.